So Caitlin Clark is going to be completely left off the Olympics roster for Team USA. And is this a surprise? Kind of. Is it like justified that she's being left off it? Kind of. But yeah, it's a bit of a surprise. Honestly, I would have thought they would have just brought her to bring her. But I actually think she is going to be brought, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in this video, but I actually think she is going to be brought. Before we get on, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We are trying to hit 7,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for 6,500. Trying to 7,000 as soon as possible, but anyway, now let's get on to the video. So, Caitlin Clark is not making the roster. The roster is A'ja Wilson, obvious. Breanna Steward, obvious. Diana Taurasi. Now, this is where I would put her. I would say, do you go for the 42-year-old or do you go for the 22-year-old? Because realistically, they have 11 of the best players on the roster. I will say they have 11 of the best players on the roster, but it's like, do you bring the young player who's going to be there for the future, or do you just get Diana Taurasi her record for or you just let Diana Taurasi play in her 6th Olympics? And they chose Taurasi. Obviously, she's been great. She's been one of the best, one of the GOATs. But, like, obviously, Taurasi this season has probably not been as good as Caitlin Clark. Like, she's the 3rd best player on her own team. And her own team's not particularly good. Brittany Griner, the only actual center they brought. However, you could probably play A'ja Wilson or Breanna Stewart at center, realistically. Especially because you're not looking... To be fair, Australia... Magpador's Australian, isn't she? You're not looking at, like, even a... and Liz Cambage at center, so it's not like you're gonna get destroyed. I think Australia might have the best chance. I assume Yaru is Chinese, so like they're gonna be fine. They're gonna be absolutely fine, even without Brittany Griner. Brittany Griner is a bit of an insurance option. Alyssa Thomas, without question, one of the best players. You've got Jewel Lloyd as well, one of the best wings or one of the best guards in this entire league. Kelsey Plum. Now, Kelsey Plum's someone that you could potentially argue to leave off for Caitlin Clark. Kelsey Plum has been good this season. Jackie Young. I think Jackie Young has been... Even though she was so bad last night, like, it's not even funny how bad Jackie Young was last night. Like, that was one of the worst performances I've seen from a player this year. Especially a player as good as Jackie Young. She was garbage. She was like minus 24 or something on the floor as well in a loss, but it was by 13 when Kate Martin outplayed her last night. But Jackie Young, without question, with how she's been playing this season. Sabrina, the youngest player in the team. Like, every player in this team is 27 this year. Chelsea Gray and Kalia Copper. Copper, if you guys saw what she did last night to win that game. Down 4, bang, bang, 2 threes. Like, she's been ridiculous this season. So, I actually don't necessarily see anything too wrong with the roster. But for anyone being like Caitlin Clark was snubbed, I don't see, unless you want to argue her over Diana Taurasi, I don't think you can argue her being snubbed. I think you can maybe, there's a slight argument having her over Kelsey Plum, but there's not much merit to that argument. But Chelsea Gray has not played this season, and the Aces brought in Tiffany Hayes. Like, it seems like the Aces are prepping for life without Chelsea Gray. So her own team are bringing in free agents effectively, like, not to replace her, but like, if she was coming back, they probably would not have brought in Hayes. They wouldn't have brought in Gillian Hayes if Chelsea Gray, they knew she was coming back, or they knew she was coming back soon. So the Olympics is, 6 weeks away? It's highly unlikely that Chelsea Gray's back at all by then. And I have a feeling, like, I don't see what the point is of bringing Chelsea Gray to sit on the bench. I don't see what's the point of bringing her to sit on the end of the bench and her not being 100% healthy. So what my prediction is that they didn't want to announce Caitlin Clark. This is my whole theory, is they didn't want to announce Caitlin Clark on the team. That would have just caused absolute uproar. But Caitlin Clark and I think it's Breanna Jones are the 2 reserves. Caitlin Clark's a point guard. When Chelsea Gray goes, there's going to be a spot opening up for a point guard. That's where I think Caitlin Clark goes in. I think that it's a case of Caitlin Clark is almost certainly going to be on the roster. And I'd say it was just not to piss off players. I think being like, oh, we've just had her as a reserve and, oh, now we have to use her. Now we have to bring her. And first of all, like, it creates the talk. It creates the talk of her not making the team. And, oh, suddenly she's back on the team. And also, like, it means that if you saw her name there instead of Chelsea Gray, people will be going berserk that Arika Gumboale didn't make the team, the biggest shot chucker in the league. Like, look, she's someone that when she's on is ridiculously good, but I've never, like, she shoots nearly a shot a minute. But I think that's what it is. That's what it's for. I think that it is for, and like, I'm actually half surprised to not see Aaliyah Boston's name there. Like, she had been playing quite well for the Team USA, but I'm looking at the names, like, in that front court, she's not getting a minute over Collier, Alyssa Thomas, Greiner, Steward, or Wilson. She's not playing over any of them, and she's also been loudly terrible. I was about to say quietly terrible. No, she's been loudly terrible this season. So yeah, I think look, I'm not going to complain. I would say there's a 70% chance she ends up being on the roster, because look, they're going to win every game by 40 anyway. There's no team that can compete with USA in the women's. They haven't lost a game since 1992. Like, there is no team that can compete with these. There's no team that can even run these close, by the way. This isn't like the men's basketball, where I think France is a team literally equipped to beat USA. Like, the way international play is, every one of their guards plays defense, and then they've got Gobert, Wembanyama. You've got the likes of Nick Batum and stuff who's play suits international style. I think they are literally, I'm not sure if France beat other teams, but they are equipped to run the USA close. We've seen it with Germany. We've seen it with some other countries. Like, teams can beat America. Serbia, if Jokic plays. I don't know who's going to come out of that group of death in the qualifying between Greece, Slovenia, and Croatia. Whoever comes out of that group is going to be a threat as well. More than likely Slovenia. But at the end of the day, like, actually, fair, did Greece not murder Slovenia in Eurobasket? I can't even remember off the top of my head. But I think we see it a likelihood. I think we see a likelihood that Caitlin Clark is on this team. I think that it is, if you were to give me a percentage, I would say 70%, because Chelsea Gray has not played basketball in a long time. There's no timetable for her return. They've brought in effectively a replacement for her own team. Like, her own team have effectively replaced her. I assume she may not be back this season. She's highly unlikely to be healthy to be like 100% for the Olympics. And I don't see, even if she's back, if she can play and hasn't played in the season, I don't see the point of bringing a 50% healthy Chelsea Gray over Caitlin Clark, especially because the youngest player on that team is Sabrina Ionescu, who's 27 in a few months. Like, by the time of the next Olympics, half of this team might have retired. Like, there's genuinely no guarantee that half of this team's not retired by the next Olympics. And then suddenly you've got no continuation. But at the end of the day, USA women's are so much better than everybody else that I don't think continuity makes any difference. I think they're going to just keep beating everybody else. I think if you put the 3-on-3 players, and like, look, Ryan Howard probably should have made this team as well. You could argue that, but obviously Caitlin Clark is the mania around Caitlin Clark right now, and for everyone being like, oh, if they're physical in the league, they're going to be physical internationally. What are people talking about? I've watched international women's basketball. I watched, like, France, I think, are the 6th ranked team in the world, one of the top teams to compete with USA. I watched them play Ireland. Our team were there or thereabouts till near the end of the third, when obviously France were just better pulled away. But we were there or thereabouts at France for quite a bit of that game. Like, they were very clearly way better, but it wasn't like there was any cheap shots. It wasn't like they were this absolutely crazy physical specimens. They were just better than us, and the USA are just better than them. There's no real, the physicality allowed in the WNBA isn't allowed in any other level of basketball in the world. So anyone saying, oh, it gets more physical international level, in the men's, sure, because the NBA is the opposite, where the least amount of physicality is allowed. Not in the women's. She's going to Caitlin Clark would, if Caitlin Clark decided to naturalize for any other country, she would be their best player. If she decided to if she naturalized for any other country, she would be their single best player. She's obviously not going to do that. But, like, obviously plenty of Americans. I think John Coyle Jones is playing for Bosnia or something. Plenty of players naturalize, especially because it makes it easier for them to play in Europe in the off seasons. But if she naturalized for any country other than America, she'd be their best player. But at the same time, she's not one of the 12 best players in America. It is what it is. So that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.